I finally got an explanation for the projector. Someone had tried to break into it and damaged it. There's a piece of the projector that has sort of fallen in front of the lens, or in between the light and the lens. And so it has to be taken down and they have to try to repair it.
So is that camera still not working? Is this camera over here working?
The camera?
That one right there, is it working?
That's got nothing to do with that. The projector's still.
No, I was hoping it would catch somebody.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
It's pointing this way. Yeah, it's not a security camera. Because there's a lock on there that's been sawed through.
Tampered with that.
It's been cut.
Oh my gosh.
Padlock.
So they need a security camera in here.
So what we're going to do from this point on until it's fixed, maybe not today, is we'll have to get the cart in the library and that whole bit. But I think today we'll just struggle through with the blind spot over here.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is try and get through the rest of the progress reports. So we've got several to get through. So can one team come up and start getting set up?
So what are you doing this week? They compile
Looks like someone's dead.
Me? Get out the way.
I got a couple more.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to make it.
Should be able to.
I click on the actual file.
Yeah, it'll download it.
Download it.
Right on where it's underlined, it says progress.
Yeah, I clicked on it like 4 times.
Well, click on the icon.
On the icon. Yeah.
No, what you've already downloaded, and what happens is you have to. Okay, guys.
Okay, we're ready. So this is our progress chart that we did to kind of show just a one-page caption view of sort of where we're at and covering everything that we've been working on, all different activities and the due dates that we had set for ourselves for different assignments and for when we were having our integrated project delivery team meetings. I'm pretty excited. Amber is actually coming to town that first weekend in November to do our IP meeting. So things we've been working on early on would be like, from the owner's perspective, some research into the standards that the university has for spaces like the state has for spaces like this, things like that, the master plan for the university, looking at all those kind of documents that are available. The architect, Amber, has been looking into school history and doing some research as a way to possibly generate some of the conceptual ideas for the project. The client user group has been working on surveys and interviews, and I know Craig is actually going to be doing some faculty interviews in addition to that we talked about during our last meeting. So, as the contractor, I've been working on, looking at what kind of activities the contractor could be doing at this early phase for an IPD team. So they could be doing things to assist with site analysis, specifically actually working on the site, cleaning it up, letting the architect know if there's salvageable materials that they could use from the fire, and just helping the architect to gather some of the early site information for the site analysis. Then when we met as an IPD team in a conference call, we started working on taking that information and using it to start coming up with our concept and sort of our general design goals, letting everyone kind of feed in what their design goals would be based on their perspective. And so that's sort of where we are right now. The other things that you can't really see there, starting to get in, of course, once we've started to develop the design concept a little bit, looking at the list of program spaces or the type of components that we want to have in the building, square footage estimates, adjacency studies, doing a School of Architecture design charrette. That's something that we're planning on having as a part of our early design process. We're doing some research into the green building initiatives. One of the things that we thought about during our last meeting was this idea that we might not want this building to tie into the rest of the traditional mechanical and support systems of the university, that we want it to actually become its own separate entity, and that we might go after things like net zero energy or net zero water or something along those lines, and maybe go with a building challenger. Who knows? But anyway, just the possibility of it. So that's part of the research we're doing, is looking at some of those practices and what's been able to be completed in other places, and then making a recommendation as a team of whether or not those strategies might be able to happen here. Also been looking at doing some research into other features of like new technology that could be a part of the building, as far as either equipment or special areas of the building that they might use. And then eventually, these boxes kind of out here that are represented out here, get into actually creating some BIM conceptual models and schematic design options. So we're sort of that team, we're sort of doing this push and pull between the schematic design options sort of, and the program sort of concurrently developing together, and that those options might actually have slightly different programs in the way that they're written or approached. So we want to be able to provide a couple of options to then go back to the user group and let that user group make the final decision. And then this is just an indication of, completing deliverables, which ones are in progress right now, and at the end having a final deliverable where we're taking all this documentation that we're doing and consolidating it to something that can be published. Okay, so that's that. And mostly what we've been doing as far as our deliverables as a team, especially because we are working with someone who is not immediately within our vicinity, is just using our file exchange. So it's got a lot of documents, and we'll go through all of them. I can get this to display them again. I'm not sure why it's setting up on the page that way, but show you some of the ones we've got right now that we've been working on. So you can see just some of the different things that we've been researching and whatnot, the sustainability ideas, posting documents to each other to review, looking at some precedent studies that were pulled up, surveys that were completed, meeting minutes, all of the documents that we've been researching from, we've just been using. There's like a handbook that gives some of the design standards and things. So these are all the things that we've been referring to. We've just been posting them up here so we all can refer to them.
And I think that's really good, and I hope everybody does more of that. I monitor it every so often to see what people are doing, what documents they're exchanging and what they're posting, and it varies a great deal among groups. Some groups are not really doing very much of it. This group is really doing a good job at using this tool, and so again, I want to encourage everybody to use this. It's part of my evaluation of how you're working and how you're doing. So
we're not posting it in there. If we're still posting it, we're just not posting it on that sort of Dropbox. Do we need to start posting it in there?
Yeah, I really want you to, because, what kind of, where are you putting the Dropbox?
In the one that's.
I know, but is it housed in the Google?
Yeah.
Or is
So
it
it
down?
goes, whatever, you have a Dropbox, and let's do whatever your Dropbox is, whatever email that you have.
Yeah, I have a problem with another group that's using, I think, Wigio, and I have trouble getting into that because I have to remember passwords and all this other stuff.
Alright, so would you say we put in there?
Yeah, just dump it into Blackboard. I want to say a couple of things about that chart that we just saw. I think that's a really good format. I think it's clear, simple. The whole thing is there. You can see graphically right away how much progress has been achieved. I like the fact that the deliverables are listed down below. And I could even imagine if you could put a link, from that to the deliverable. It would be great. I wanted to ask you, do you still think you might want to do the design charrette as an in-class, using the class time with this class as the design charrette?
I think if there's any other, groups that have thought about using a charrette as part of the programming activities, then it might be nice for us all to coordinate together to do it at one time.
Yeah. What we were talking about is, it's difficult to do a design charrette and get people to commit like an hour, and a large enough group to make it worthwhile. So one thing we could do, I'm quite prepared to do, is we'll set aside one class, and it'll be the design charrette class day, which may or may not fit everybody's schedule, but maybe you can adjust your schedule a little bit. And some of you are not planning to do a design charrette, so what we could do is, that's fine, it's not required, but you would still be a participant as one of the designers, one of the charrette people, and we would, try and do it in one class. We would use the pin-up boards across there. We would have supplies here, and part of the exercise would be that somebody would be coordinating and managing it. That's a skill that we would look at. There would also be maybe a chance at a subsequent class to present the results, so that we wouldn't have to necessarily do everything in that one class time. But the point of that exercise would be to look at the role that a design charrette plays in programming and in influencing changes to the program. And at what point in the process should it occur? Should it occur very early as an idea generator of creative ideas that maybe wouldn't come up otherwise? Or is it something that occurs after the program has been prepared, at least in its first draft form, and then it kind of tests the program and it sees what the program might result in terms of a range of kinds of solutions. And again, might raise new ideas and things that were never thought of until you go put on your designer hat and you're starting to think in that sort of more, let's say, more creative mode of being the designer. So I think that's what we'll do, unless anybody has a better idea or a problem with that. Anybody? Can we get another group up here? Yeah.
Ryan White, Section Connor.
I'm gonna be good at sleep.
Okay, I'm the user, and as a user, I define, what we need in the School of Architecture. We basically wanted to have a building that was more energy efficient and also, um, sustainable. So one of the things we were proposing was that, you probably enclose the building with studio spaces so that you can control the air conditioning better. And we also decided to have like a workshop, a library. We have grad students and grad labs. We also proposed that we have 24 hours for labs and studio with card access. The lab should be upgraded with computers and system software so that new students can have access to these devices. We also have the workshop, spaces for jury to display their models, also a gallery space for students and professors, and also lecture rooms. I also propose to have a food court for students and maybe a 24-hour coffee shop area whenever students come and do work at midnight. And also to have a social gathering space for the student body where you can go to mingle, have a lounge area, have a coffee and talk about architecture. We propose that energy and lighting in the building should be motion sensors so that you can save on electricity. We also look into pertinent studies as well.
Okay, me being a programmer, we want to look at some different schools that's applying some of these, just some of the issues that we need right now here in school. So, at Rochester Institute of Technology, which is the Institute of Sustainability in New Building, in New York, one of the things that they tried to do is implement a lot of the green technology within their building itself to kind of be like a self-demonstrated idea of what the school is all about. So, exterior, one of the things that I noticed is that they have a lot of fenestration, so that you get a lot of natural light inside the building. And then here in this picture, you see, they're planning a lot of, they have some roof garden so that they could also generate some energy as well as, keep the building cool, things like that. And then we noticed that they have like roof opening and roof lighting. So not only they again get some natural lighting within the building. And then something that I noticed that they have similar to our building is that they have a lot of like open spaces. So that in itself could kind of get a lot of light throughout the building instead of just like a particular room. And then for the collaboration area, again, they have an open space like something like our school have, so that there's like a place for students to kind of get together instead of going in a particular room and then you have to do research. Something that's going to be easier for the user. And then there's exposed HVAC system, and it's easily accessible as well. So if you want to kind of know more about how it's connected, things like that, you do have the option to look at what we have here. And then here's like a diagram showing how they applied everything within the building. So again, natural lighting, green roofing, photovoltaic panels, and the roof lighting, the open patron space for airflow and ventilation, things like that. And then and then for Syracuse University, another thing that I thought was really interesting about their school is that they made their atrium, well, watch, this is gallery space, kind of like an art piece in itself. So it's kind of like almost kind of like an interacting learning experience. It's like how we kind of try to be more exposed connections and stuff for the. So that is more like an art piece. And then and also it's also something that is really great that we could actually use is a really sophisticated auditorium or lecture space big enough to hold like a large mass of students in like when we have like mass meetings, things like that. And then they have a 3D printing lab. So they have, and I'm assuming it's a 24-hour accessible printing lab, so that they could also do their work there. And then within the building, they have an atrium. Again, it's very elegant, it's spacious, they have roof lighting. So I just thought that was something that we kind of like, it can pinpoint the most important things that we could use within the building itself.
If this is another precedent that we set with Boston Hall and Cornell University, and just precedents because the way the technology they use and how they express their structure, it's a learning tool of seeing the structure express and how the building is put together. And also the material used is a brick. It's relates to Tallahassee and this area. And Lee Hall, College of Architecture, is just more of a state-of-the-art facility, sustainable use. The use of natural light and skylights, making the space more open. What is the space that we use for this project?
This is the addition actually across the street from McIntosh's Glasgow School of Art. And what he tried to do is have the two buildings have the same opinion and feeling, even though one is culturally dated, even though it is the right now it's considered the most popular building in the United Kingdom. So how do you come across the street and come up with a new building that would either enhance it or, you know, have a conversation with the building? But besides the green aspects of it, I like the idea that the old building, as it being the campus, being the old layout of the campus, has age to it, and it's set in a certain time along with the rest of the street. Now this building is a complete contrast, but they do have an interesting dialogue because, well, one, it's in Glasgow, and Glasgow is very wet, and so you grow moss and stuff, and some other stuff in the buildings, you know, pollution. So the buildings, the stone buildings get dark color, as you can see how dark the blocks are. While Hull's building is completely this stark white. So at the same time, it's completely different, but the reflection off of the building would reflect back on McIntosh's masterpiece, so it would actually make it feel lighter and would actually highlight the building, the original building of Glasgow School of Art. And this is another one. I can't pronounce all the name of this. This is a building in Portugal. It's actually a renovation to a school, and this is actually a hyphenated form of it. But this is one of the main buildings, and you see it's huge structural concrete. And what they did here is they actually painted this area here black of the concrete. As you can see, they punctuated air holes. They wanted the light to come in close to the facade and heat this up, so the air would start moving over the top. And actually, Huxford building is sitting just right on top of this. So you have this, and you have this internal meeting space that's actually open. It creates its own air circulation, so it's actually a cooled space. And the physical space under heating and air conditioning is underneath. Which is neat idea.
Okay, we started to do a questionnaire. Basically, we wanted to have a feeling of what the students wanted inside the building. the way we structured the questions was based on the user requirements. So we asked stuff like if they would prefer motion sensors. We asked if they would like a 24-hour coffee shop area. We also asked if we wanted to have the library to have more study rooms, and also asked what they think about having a green wall in terms of it being an educational purpose. We also asked open-ended questions. We asked, do you think having a green wall space will enhance learning sustainability design, and why? One response was, I think having a green wall space will enhance learning sustainability design because the School of Architecture is fully designed as far as being an example to the students and what they should aim for. Another response, they said it would provide students with the ability to really see how a green system works. It will also provide a real-life example and a lecture jump-off point for professors. The third response was, many don't understand how they are designed. Having it at hand will allow the students to have a better understanding of this construction and how it works. Another open-ended question we asked was, do you think it's beneficial for student organizations to have a conference room designated for them? One response was, it is beneficial for student organizations and SOA to have their own designated conference room space, just so that they can have a space for themselves in a situation, especially for pop-up meetings, events, etc. Another response was, this influences the organization to be more professional, and it increases the amount of activities from the organization. One response, they actually said no. They said there will be enough places for organizations to use. And the response was, solves the request for room issues. And this is the data collected.
How many people filled in a questionnaire?
It was a dozen. There was many more that were, given questionnaire or asked to do it, but only 12 managed to finally participate.
So I just want to make this point. When you do a questionnaire, you have, as I said before, you have to decide: is this simply a descriptive survey to uncover some ideas, or is it trying to be statistical, in that you're trying to draw some inferences and draw some conclusions? And when you start showing charts like this, pie charts with percentages, it implies that you're trying to do a statistical questionnaire, but in fact, with the small sample and the types of questions you were asking, it was really meant to just elicit some interesting responses that are descriptive. So I'd be careful about trying to move into kind of a statistical analysis of just 12 responses. It really isn't it isn't valid in the sense of being able, because just one more person answering one way makes a huge difference in your pie chart. So,
one of the things I thought of when we did it was we were looking at more what the students are really interested in versus, this is, so to us it kind of says, well, they're actually thinking about this, so that seems like more pertinent data.
That's fine. That's fine. It's sort of a common problem with when people do questionnaires and any kind of sort of research like that they fall into the trap of starting to present it in ways that are really not appropriate for what it is. And I'm not picking on you guys, but pie charts in this case is one of those things that really isn't appropriate to the kind of survey you did. There's nothing wrong with the survey you did, it's just the way of describing it. I have a couple of questions. Is the process you followed, you start out with user requirements and they came from you as the user, right? You kind of came up with those, and then using those, you fashioned the questionnaire.
Yes.
And it seems a little backwards. It's like you could have used the questionnaire to come up with kinds of user issues and requirements that should be considered. And I know part of this was open-ended, but even the open-ended parts were just asking people to elaborate on the issues that you had already predetermined. So, and it's a fairly narrow set of user requirements that you chose. There are many other user requirements. The user requirements you tended to select tend to be student-based. There are a lot of faculty user requirements that were not represented. There are a lot of administrator user requirements and so on and so forth. So as long as you realize that and don't hang your hat entirely on the user requirements you came up with and this questionnaire as the sole basis for your program, because the program has to incorporate much more. I also found in your presentation it was hard for me to sense whether you're 10% of the way through your process, 20%, as a progress report, you showed evidence of what you've done so far. But what I was missing was, what does it represent in terms of progress and what is left to be done? That part, I couldn't get that from what you presented.
Based on the previous assignment, we had tasks broken down into 6. The next step was to collect data, which includes like questionnaires, first-hand studies, and so forth. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
And after that, we're going to go into the core screen of the program and try to come up with the actual program with the programmer.
Yeah, I guess I was looking for that information in this progress report.
Okay.
So it would maybe start out with
The chart.
the chart and then finish with a summary of work to be completed. The other thing I wasn't going to mention in public, but there were some really bad spelling problems in the first check part. And I do mention it not to embarrass them, but just heads up for everybody. That really bugs me when graduate students put out a public document and it hasn't been proofread. Just be really careful with that. It doesn't reflect well on you when that happens. Anybody else have anything they want to ask or anything they want for this group? Okay, group 7. Who's next? We've got 2 more, I think.
Who's next? Is us?
What are you guys trying to do?
We should, Amara, go to PowerPoint and click on that and do quit, because right now it's still running PowerPoint. Do quit PowerPoint. There you go. And now you can click back on your window there and type in your address in the browser.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to assignments. You go to assignments or whatever, which way?
If you click, yeah, it'll download there. And then it'll drop down to the bottom, download.
Very bottom one.
Usually the bottom one, that.
Very bottom.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Just go through their scan.
Alright, so, pretty much this.
You know, to me, I think it's enough.
Our analysis of the different facilities. Oh, sorry. Amara.
It's okay.
So, what we did, alright, so, okay, here we go. So what we started was, our space program. And pretty much what we did, we got out of, we reincorporated all the different, kind of programs or industrial, landscape, urban architecture. So we got all the information from each of them, for a create a program, and then we kind of created a facility program for this school. And pretty much we've just been kind of working it out, trying to fix it up, and hopefully we'll be coming up with a final phase for that. So this is pretty much how we started. We just what we want to incorporate into the new school, and just giving like a small overview, but it was still like in the beginning phases, and from that and combining from the rest of the other schools, we were able to kind of create like a program. It's still in the working phases, but it's more in a little more detail. We're trying to add out the square footage and stuff like that. So what we did was we started like now working better with space efficiencies.
So we got the square footage requirements and decided to, just locate where areas, what floors swimming rooms are gonna be in. So this is the ground floor, where the construction industrial phase will be at. And this is the first floor where we'll have our faculty. This is where the architectural studios is located, you can't see it. And interior design and then landscaping with the library. Then you have continued landscaping, storage spaces, and urban design studios.
So we kind of went back and now.
We went through what we studied, like, as a construction engineer, we studied many different, components and different sustainable, sustainable things we could use and incorporate into our building, and we finalized, from the study, we finalized certain components. And for the structure, we decided to go on and use the brick so that it could fit into the context of its urban surrounding, and also glass. We decided to use the glass to make the building more modern building on campus. We decided to use the glass and the steel.
So,
Sorry. And what we decided to use, on the south side of the building, we decided to use the photovoltaic cladding on the south side of the building, only on the south side, so that we could have maximum use of that. And on the other two sides, on the east and west side, we would also have recessed areas and also awnings to provide protection from the sun. On the north side, it would be all glass and steel. And according to, on the roof section, we decided to have on the south side more the terrace, so that the vegetation on that south side of the building on the roof would get full exposure to the sun. And also the photovoltaic roof will also be on that side also, and we will also have more on the north side. That's where they put yeah.
So, what we've been doing is like going back into our schedule, and we just thought we kind of added a percentage of what we've got completed and what we're still in working process. Kind of, you can't tell, but we kind of combine like the design, our schematic design with and our kind of space program kind of together now, kind of working both hand in hand. We figured it was more necessary now to start putting both together, even though they were separate. And, so we're kind of just looking into that, and the date that was there was pretty much our meeting time that we had, where we decided to combine both of them together now and start working on back and forth. We're still in a working process, so we just keep moving forward with that. And then, so that's the reason why I was kind of combining this, which now we started looking at the site location, kind of getting some of the site analysis, combining both phase.
We got there's more updates recently.
And those things recently.
Well, I have several comments, and since it's already 12 o'clock, I think we're gonna have to do the rest of the presentations at the next class, which isn't gonna be till Monday, because Friday is class is canceled, it's a convocation, homecoming convocation. So on your presentation, several things. I have a real problem with your schematic design. It looks like you've decided right out of the box that it's going to be a box.
No,
It's going to be a rectangle, and I don't know where your dimensions came from. Is it the site limit, how wide and long it would be, and why is it all 90-degree angles?
No, it's just space adjacency, just putting spaces against each other. That's not what performance.
But you've already decided that it's going to be on 5 floors, 6 floors. Why is it all on 1 floor? And why is it? There's 100 ways that you can put the pieces together, you know. So you have to be careful that you don't limit your sort of thinking about what this could be. I mean, maybe it should be a big circle, or a donut, or maybe it should be a triangle. So just be careful about that, because now you're going to start using that as the basis for other decisions you're making. And it really, and I support the idea of schematic design and programming kind of having a dance, whether you go back and forth and back and forth. But your schematic design is so pedestrian, let's say, and it doesn't, it's kind of starting to lock into a very conventional thinking about the building. You know, what if you want to have a 10-story open atrium space that goes up, you know, into the sky? And what if you want to have, and you're already talking about the west side and the east side and the north side. Maybe there aren't 4 sides. Maybe there are 10 sides. And maybe there's no straight wall. Maybe they're all slanting at an angle. So that's the problem with programming. A lot of programming causes one to think in very conventional and uncreative ways. And I think you're starting to fall into that trap a little bit. So you need to figure out how to get around that. And this applies to everybody. You know, don't let the programming be something that, it should be the inspiration for new thinking, for reinventing the building type, for thinking of a school in ways that haven't been thought of. And that's the other problem with spending too much time thinking about this building and what people like and don't like about this building. Not that you're doing that, but other groups are doing that. Because that limits thinking. It's much more important to look at cutting edge innovation in other very recent schools of architecture buildings. And we've seen that in some of the presentations where they're doing things that are really, really exciting and interesting. So that's just a cautionary note I want to sort of caution I want to throw out there. Your chart, if you go to your chart at the end where you're showing your sort of plan, your progress, there's a number of things about that that I sort of had some issues with. When you're talking about the meetings at the top, were they all day long meetings? And those dates at the top, is that just one day or is it a week? And if it's a week, is that the beginning of the week, the middle of the week, or the end of the week of work? So I didn't understand that. And when you're talking about meeting percentage,
there was completion pretty much, but like there was some work in process. What was completed.
I just think the chart needs a little bit of work because you're mixing some things around.
Okay.
A meeting is an event, and then there are tasks that you're doing that are have a duration to them. Maybe over a period of 2 weeks, you're kind of working on that task. So you need to treat those separately and differently in your schedule.
Okay.
And so that's sort of my main issue is what those dates mean at the top, and where are the deliverables identified? You know, where do you? I know you say some things are 100%. There's some things that are 85%, and so on. If something's 100%, is there some evidence of it? And I think you should take advantage of, I don't know why it's all green, but there's other colors that could be, you can even use like a different color for an event versus a task or something. Or maybe a different color for the different participants. If it's a task being done by the user, if it's a task being done by the architect, if it's a task, you know, where the client is in charge or where the contract, whoever the person is, maybe they get a different color. So there's this is a very important tool, and so you shouldn't shortchange it. Okay, that's really sort of what I wanted to get out there. I'm sorry we couldn't get to the other groups. It's too hard to get through that many in such a short class time.
Okay, Monday.
Yeah, Monday. I've looked at them all. I'm very familiar with what you said. I gave you some very short comments, very brief. And if you want me to elaborate and talk to you more as a group, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah,
luncheon today. It's $5. It's a healthy kind of things like salad, soups, chicken.
Don't let that discourage you.
Right, it's really good. Professor Goodwin's giving a lecture at, she's actually giving one of these, I think she started at noon. I'm not sure if she started at noon or 12:15. She's in there right now. Yeah, it's on textiles, materials, and, huh?
It's marketing, texture, and